Now, for you folks at home, doing something like this, an exploration this complicated, is not just a linear process. It is filled with twists and turns and a lot of unpredictability. To get us here was quite a journey. We thought you might want to see what it was like for us the past 3 weeks.
This is Jim Cameron's 35th dive to the Titanic. For this and every dive, he's gotten there on one of the Russian Mir subs, among the world's deepest diving manned submersibles. This time, it's different, because for the first time ever, the Mir is linked to the surface by a fiber optic cable. That cable is how we're bringing you this special broadcast. The descent takes more than 2 hours. Most Mir drops are for sleep. Not this one. The cable is a constant worry. It is among the most dangerous parts of the entire mission. If the cable breaks, it could tangle in the sub and take it to the bottom. Jim descends with archaeologist Mike Arbuthnot. His mission is to help Jim get video images for the historic record. I spoke with him before the dive.
Titanic is going away. It's corroding as a result of Mother Nature. So we want to get in there and take a look at what is contained within Titanic before she's lost forever.
Emily Jadif is another archaeologist brought along for the mission.
Well, we're going to try and do a survey of unexplored portions of Titanic.
Laurie Johnston and Roy Cullimar, experts on the bacteria that is destroying Titanic.
At the bottom, and the rest is an iron ore deposit.
Ken Marshall has been studying Titanic's structure for 40 years. He will help guide Jim through the maze.
Corridor light fixture on Jim's way aft to the first-class lounge.
Don Lynch is a historian who knows the personal stories of the Titanic passengers.
You know, Colonel Gracie is there, who was like everywhere throughout the whole sinking. I mean, he was heroic in that way. I mean, he one of those personalities a lot of people didn't like, but he was everywhere at once and making sure every woman he saw got into a lifeboat.
Park Stevenson is an engineer who helps visualize Titanic's interiors.
Well, the Marconi apparatus was the ship's means of talking to the outside world. Right up on me.
He's got the experts, the technology, and one of the most experienced deep submersible crews in the world. Bits of the technology were developed separately for 9 months before the expedition began, but it wasn't until 3 weeks ago that Jim and his team could finally assemble and test the system with the Keldish's Mir submersibles. No one knew whether it would work. The first thing was to get down to the wreck and test the communications. It's a 2.5-hour descent that Jim has done many times, but never with a 15,000-foot tether of fiber optic cable. The cable from the sub joins one of the ship's inflatable boats, or ribs. The rib keeps aligned with the Keldysh and allows sound and picture to be transmitted back to Mission Control. To get those pictures back from inside the Titanic, there are 3 separate links, which all have to function at the same time. It's a fantastic technical achievement. The piece that had never fully been tested before is the fiber optic link from submersible to surface. Making this work was an incredibly delicate operation and risky. The fragile optic fiber is wrapped in a casing with a 500-pound breaking strain. It was a double-edged sword. The cable was weak enough to snap easily if the 18-ton submersible jerks when taut. It was strong enough to completely foul up the submersible's propulsion system and long enough to get impossibly tangled if it was let out too quickly. During one of the practice dives, 6,000 feet below the surface, the worst happened.
I believe we're fouled, guys. The cable looks like it's going up, but it could be looping over us like this. It's hard to say. We should be paying out by now, but we're not. This is not a good condition, Tolia. I think we made a mistake. I think it's bad.
They were no longer worried about getting pictures back, but dealing with a potentially dangerous situation for the Mir team.
A loop came around the tail fin of the Mir, has caught. Now the cable won't necessarily break, and this is the dangerous part of this. It has a steel strength member. What happens if it bends, though, it'll attenuate the signal. So you lose communications, you lose video signal, but you're still hooked.
Mission control, anybody? Mission control.
We've got to monitor this closely as they're starting their ascent back to the surface. We've got to madly taking cable to try and keep the whole thing from fouling the sub and potentially doing something even worse.
The only thing the submersible could do was dump ballast and head for the surface. The challenge of trying to get real-time pictures from the wreck of the Titanic had just become abundantly clear to James Cameron.
Well, we sort of made TV history up to a point, right up to the point that it went, and we got a loop over us somehow. I saw it on the tail camera. I saw it coming down. We tried to get out of the way, and I literally watched it come down, come right past the wing, and hook under the wing. Oh, we're screwed.
The team also had problems with the ship's satellite communications.
Sensor going right.
A parts failure meant that all satellite systems were down. Being 350 miles out to sea and beyond helicopter range, there was only one solution. If this can happen in 2005, it's a stark reminder of the desperate situation Titanic was in nearly a century ago, when communication was with a Morse code transmitter.
Water. The card is dry, so that's good. It's a good sign so far.
Communication problems don't stop diving operations. During this two-leg, three-week expedition, Cameron had to make use of every precious minute underwater with the Mears.
Now, this was the scene earlier today